show you how you can turn a Danby refrigerator into a Kegerator. There's still a number of models available on the market today that will do this for you beautifully, and I'll give you a few of those model numbers. It's so great to pour one right here. Look, I'm working today out of the office, but you know, a small pour, I'll be just fine. So cheers, enjoy the build, and have fun making your own. Okay, so we're working on the Danby DAR044A6LDB little mini fridge here. And the first step is to start working on the door and making sure that the molding, the seal for sealing the door is going to work for us. We want to be able to keep this and reuse it. You'll notice that there's been a change in how this model's been designed. In previous models, they had a screw system where it's screwed in. Now they simply have a fitted molding. The molding just slides and snaps right into place. We want to be able to reuse this, so we're going to have to be creative in how we go about modifying the door. So I'll show you how we go about doing that. This is cutting wheel, normally used with Dremels, and it's like a diamond bit one. I've used this for cutting rocks and things when I did my tiling. So this has worked fantastic on a lot of projects. Well, as you can see, I was able to, using my wheel blade, cut out the frame of the door piece. I did use it to cut a few other strategic positions because the foam insulation is molded in to the pieces. So simply cutting underneath them, I was able to tear them away pretty easily. Well, a little effort went into it. And then just kind of smooth it down, and you can see that the door, I was able to just snap this all back in place for the seal on the outside for the door. So I'll just find something nice to go inside, maybe a dry erase board. I have a friend that said he could probably get me a nice piece of sheet metal to go in there. So we'll see which way we go. Now that all the plastic components have been cut out, I've evened down the film insulation. I have my seal that comes out easily that I can replace. I need something to put in here, and so what I did was I went to Goodwill, found a picture frame with plexiglass and a nice solid backing. So I was able to cut that down to size. For the moment, I just kept part of the poster, which is down here, is Dark Knight from Batman. But I'm going to cover this with stickers from various breweries, stuff like that. I'll fill that in later, not important. This comes apart really easy and seals back up, so it's an easy thing to fix up. Nice plastic backing on there. The next step is to remove the plastic top. You'll want to remove 3 screws from the front, this is the door side, and 3 screws then from the back, and it will just lift off. You'll notice that there's a styrofoam little piece underneath. That styrofoam piece is basically a spacer that's to hold it up, so it gives it some support, but that's not going to be enough support for a tower to go on there for the Kegerator. So what you want to do is measure the thickness of this. In this case, it's 3/8 of an inch. Now, finding a 3/8 of an inch board at the hardware store is not an easy task to do. There might be multiple alternatives that I'm not aware of, but in my case, I found that I had siding that happens to be 3/8 of an inch thick, which is perfect. The channel in here is 17 inches wide, and you don't want to fill the whole channel because on the top of this refrigerator is a metal support piece that's going to raise it up about 1/8 of an inch or so. So we're only going to take it this far, which is just shy of the end of the ridge here. The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to put silicone on this and fasten it to the plastic piece. I'm using a silicone that's designed for windows, doors, and siding. We know that this is going to give us a good waterproof seal. Press down firmly, and we'll let it dry. Now that the wood is adhered to the plastic top of the mini fridge, we're going to go ahead and put it back. You're going to slide it up from the back first, and you're going to attach the screws from the rear first, and then to the front. The next step is to remove the 3 screws that hold the light and temperature controller in place. Place the 3 screws in a baggie in the back so I don't lose them. Now I've pulled the cord that goes to the back, I've pulled it to the side, and I've taped it so that it's out of the way of where we're going to be screwing a circular hole for the tower and for the lines to feed through. The big question always is, where do you drill your hole for the tower? This particular model of Danby is known for not having any refrigeration or electrical lines in the area between where the electrical cooling panel is and the light switch in the back. The way to determine where to drill is simply by taking your measuring tape through the inside to the back where the metal panel is for cooling and determine that distance to the front. Do the same thing as to where the back part of the light is. Those 2 measurements can be measured from the front to make 2 marks. Then you're simply going to divide this distance for your width in half. The width of the refrigerator is 20 3/4 inches, so we're going to go 10 3/8 inches to the center. The distance between the back refrigeration metal panel and the light switch area leaves me 3 inches to play with. I need to make sure that I leave some room for the bolts and washers to go through for anchoring in the tower. I drilled a small starter hole with a regular drill bit so it wouldn't be skating around on me on the plastic, and now I'll go for the hole saw. At this point I've taken the hole saw, I've drilled through the outer plastic, I've also drilled through the wood, that's our support base, and the metal for the refrigerator. I'm now into the insulation. I'm going to take a regular drill bit, I'm going to drill all the way through the refrigerator at this point, but then I can take the hole saw and drill back up through from the back side for a cleaner cut from inside the refrigerator. That was pretty simple. Now I get to crawl in. Now I'm going to file down the edges. A lot of people use 2-inch holes. I went with a 2.5-inch hole saw. The opening on my tower is 3 inches and there's some insulation. 2.5 will allow the insulation to be held on the interior, as well as give me maximum space for airflow. I plan on using some copper pipe as well as a fan to ensure that I cool down the tower. The next thing you need to do is seal the inside of the hole where you have insulation. You don't want any water leaking into the areas or underneath the plastic. The water can break down the insulation and deteriorate it, so we want to seal that up. I have some metallic tape that I've used in the past on other refrigeration projects, which I'm going to use. This is 2 inches wide. I'm going to split it down the middle to make 1-inch strips and put them around. I'm going to be able to overlap a full inch on the top side because I have a 4-inch diameter tower. After taping from the top, take a look from the inside of the refrigerator. I found 2 positions that would benefit from another piece of tape. In addition, since this is 2-inch wide aluminum tape, I went ahead and ran a single piece around the inside, removing edges and strengthen it. Aluminum tape can get damaged and break. The overlapping and the additional piece ensures that this is going to stay secure and the insulation won't be damaged in the future from moisture. Before we go through how to attach the tower, I want to address cooling. This is always a primary question for people that use a tower. There's always issues with keeping it cool. We don't want to waste a cup of beer that's warm or either full of foam. What I've done first of all is I have insulation inside here that will help keep it insulated from the exterior temperatures. Secondly though, I'm going to be running copper tubing inside. The copper tubing is going to do a number of things, but I want to point out a few features that I have. Notice the top end that is going in is ever so slightly flared. That just gives a little bit of flexibility as I'm putting it up there and running the line. In addition to that, the bottom end that's going to be inside the refrigerator is much more widely flared because we are going to be moving it around. All of the ends have been deburred and sanded. They're nice and smooth inside and out. Now, the T, that's an interesting thing. Take a look at the T that we have here. The purpose of the T is basically that this is going to run up inside the tower from the inside of the kegerator. Copper is a great conductor of temperatures, in this case cooling. So by using the copper up in the tower and adding this T, the purpose for the T, I've added additional copper that's going to be exposed inside the refrigerator. So between these two, I'm going to keep it cool. It also serves a second purpose of being able to attach this copper strap to hold it up in place. This, along with a 120 millimeter fan that I'll be running inside the refrigerator to recycle the air, should ensure that I get enough cold air going up, and with the line running through this, that it'll stay chilled. The next step was pretty simple. I took the base with the top off and looked through the hole to make sure I centered it properly through the hole. And then using the screw holes, I just marked where I needed to drill. Drilled the holes all the way through, dropped the screws in, bolted them in. One thing I did above the kit was I went and got some extra large washers to make sure that they would anchor properly. You can see that the screws come down quite a ways. I'll probably come back and use a bolt cutter to shorten those. I've cut off the ends of each of the bolts now. I'm going to be looking for rubber caps to put on the ends of each of the bolts. The next step is to reattach the thermostat control. Alright, the thermostat and light fixture are firmly in place. Now's the time where we go ahead and we add in the copper pieces, pipes that I showed you earlier. So it's time to do a fitting to know that everything fits well before we go ahead and solder the edges of this. Okay, the beer lines are fed through the copper piping and that's been attached to the top. I'm going to try to get you a good angle so you can see how I did that. Now we've got the ball lock disconnects all done, and we're ready to hook up all the equipment. Okay, everything's hooked up. I've already gone through and cleaned out both of the corny kegs, soaked them actually previous days and so forth, and now I'm going to run some OxiClean through the lines and then some sanitizer after that. No leaks down below, so here's the moment of truth. And there we go, fellas. So we'll be running the OxiClean through there for a while, and then we'll come back and run some Star Sand for a while. But this is stuff you can see on other videos, so we're pretty much done. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Cheers.